Today I'm gonna start a new series on my channel. I'm gonna start a series where I'm gonna describe every single Waffen-SS division who fought in the Second World War. I hope you enjoy it and let's jump right into the video. Of course, we're gonna start with the first SS division. This was the first SS Panzerdivision, Leibstandarte SS Adolf Hitler. Of all the Waffen-SS divisions, the Leibstandarte SS Adolf Hitler has the longest, genius and the most unique character. In fact, the history of the Waffen-SS began with the re-establishment of the SS bodyguard unit just after Hitler's reissue of power in 1933. The original bodyguard of the Führer and the NSDAP leadership then grew into a powerful armored division deployed on all fronts. Hitler's guard grew with the power of the Third Reich. The division was ultimately active in the namesake for 12 years until its surrender in 1945. This division has several commanders. The first one was SS Obergruppenführer Dietrich from March 1933 to July 1943. The second one was SS Brigadeführer Wisch from July 1943 to August 1944. The third one was SS Oberführer Monke from August 1944 to February 1945. And the last one was SS Brigadeführer Krumm from February to May 1945. German leader Adolf Hitler believed that he should have a Praetorian Guard, loyal to him until his death. Sepp Dietrich was given the task of forming a new full-time SS unit. The main task of this unit was personally escort Hitler. On March 17, 1933, there was a new headquarters guard, the SS Stabswache Berlin. The guard consists of 120 carefully selected volunteers. 2 months later, this unit was transferred into SS Sonderkommando Sassen and expanded to include 3 training companies. In the following 3 months, the bodyguard guard was expanded by another 3 training companies, which we called the SS Sonderkommando Jüterbog. Since I mainly want to talk about the fighting history of this unit, I'm not gonna talk further about the background. Let's begin. After war had been declared in September 1939, the Leibstandarte would be ready and willing to be thrown headlong into the heat of the battle. The unit played a significant role during the invasion of Poland and as a reward for its success was expanded further during the later part of 1939 and the first half of 1940. Prior to the invasion of France and the Low Countries in the late spring of 1940, the Leibstandarte has been upgraded to a fully fledged motorized infantry regiment and was equipped with the latest Panzerkampfwagen 4. In spite of their reputation as a show force, the Leibstandarte were quick jumped into the breach. And it was indeed a member of the unit's 3rd Battalion, SS Obersturmbannführer Hugo Kraas, was awarded the first Iron Cross of the Netherlands campaign following to his swift advance and subsequent capture of a significant number of enemy prisoners. The picture was not all one of glory. However, during the first forays in Poland, men of the Leibstandarte has found himself embroiled in an incident concerning the massacre of 50 Jews in a church. In the following year, the 7th Company of the 2nd Battalion were responsible for the shooting of a number of British prisoners near the northern French town of Wormhout. As quickly as the unit picked up its reputation for ferociousness on the field of battle, it was also become notorious of its zealous fanatism. In addition, the unit had suffered a high casualty rate, no doubt due to over-enthusiasm in the field. Harsh lessons were to be learned, and the Leibstandarte was no different in this respect. By the time of the invasion of the Soviet Union, in June 1941, the SS division would have an overall strength of just under 11,000 men and a leadership steeled by tough combat in both the West and in the Balkans and Greece. From 1941 through the early part of 1944, the Leibstandarte was witness a dramatic change in fortiness. The initial enthusiasm of the Russian campaign had long since waned, and the unit had found himself involved in the most fierce battles and vicious and equally fanatical enemies. In spite of the worsening situation, the Leibstandarte and the Waffen-SS as a whole would remain steadfast. In late 1942, the strength of the division was over 20,000 men. As before, the Leibstandarte continued to be equipped with the highest standard of arms and armor, including the powerful Tiger I tank. The war in the East was relentless, bitter and brutal. Massacres were committed as a matter of course, and everyone played a part. The men of the Leibstandarte were to experience one of the most significant battles of the entire war, including the Battle of Kharkov and Kursk, the latter being the biggest tank battle in history. In the spring of 1944, the Leibstandarte was finally moved westwards, and while the bitter fighting in Russia had taken its toll in its number, the steely fanatically remained. By the time of the campaign in Normandy during the late spring and summer of 1944, existing Leibstandarte and the 12th SS Grenadier Division Hitlerjugend were merged into what was become the 1st SS Panzerkorps Leibstandarte. 12th SS Panzergrenadier Division Hitlerjugend, also known as the Baby Division on account of the average age of its men, had a close relationship with the LSSAH, in that many of its senior commanders had blooded themselves into the ranks of the LSSAH. The campaign in Normandy was to see the men of the newly formed 1st SS Panzerkorps continue as they had done before, at times stretching the boundaries of the impossible in the quest to stem the tide of the Allied advance. In December 1944, the LSSAH found itself in the wintry Ardennes, poised to spearhead what was seen as many as the Hitler's last gamble in the West. Along with a number of rejigged Waffen-SS formations, the LSSAH had now been reformed into a smaller, fast-moving Kampfgruppe. Another innovative move that proved the leadership of the Waffen-SS to be way ahead of its peers in terms of military strategy and innovation. After brief initial success, the German counterattack was slowed down by both a redoubtable enemy and a change in weather conditions, but not before the Kampfgruppe under the legendary SS Obersturmbannführer Joachim Peiper had succeeded in making a rapid progress. This success was also not for long, because his panzers were run out of fuel and he couldn't continue his attack. He had to abandon his panzers and were forced to retreat. Failure in the West was not be the last action of the division in spite of heavy losses. It would sustain during the closing weeks of the war in early 1945. Hitler was to dispatch his most reliable men to Hungary, sending many of his best men in what was to be his last hooray against the fiercest enemy. Even after the heavy losses the division had taken in Belgium and the constant whittling away of manpower, armor and the loss of their most experienced commanders, the Leibstandarte continued to display an incredible fighting spirit. In a dramatic period, early in the spring of 1945, the reformed 1st SS Panzerkorps succeeded in driving back the Soviets, destroying 7 full infantry divisions in the process, but as before, the sheer numbers of the enemy troops were to overwhelm Dietrich's forces. They kept fighting until there was little left of the once proud division. In a desperate measure to save his remaining loyal men and with the Soviet poised to advance on Vienna, Dietrich took what was the only logical step and decided to retreat. After this disaster, the division was never been able to pick up his weapons again. In the end, the division had seen combat on 12 of the greatest battles of the Second World War. It also was the division who had by far lasted the longest and probably was one of the most feared divisions in the Second World War. I hope you all have enjoyed this video and leave a like and subscribe. I hope to see you in the next episode of this series.